Welcome to post-match from the Blue Room. If things couldn't get any worse after Everton getting beaten 3-1 by Crystal Palace, the bad news is you've got me presenting instead of Matt Jones. He's thrown me under a bus and asked me to do this one this week. But the good news is I am joined by Matt Barry, Dan Vane, Warren Doyle and Mike Blakey. I'll get this out the way first, lads, right? Coleman and Gray want their arses kicking for that first goal. Coleman wants his arse kicking for the third goal. Let's just get that out the way now. But you know, no manager can account for like individual errors like that. But what was the plan today? You know, the manager's got to take full responsibility after Arsenal. You know, Crystal Palace are probably not as good as Arsenal, although that's up for debate. But how do you go from like that performance to that performance within a few short days? Surely you just do the same thing and like see what happens. I don't know. I really don't know where to begin with that performance. So I'll go to top left on my screen and Matt will come to you first. What do you make of that?
I think it was a shocker, absolutely shocking. That I don't understand what the game plan was. We've been crying out for 4-3-3 in midfield, and he goes with that. But there seemed to be no idea about how to get the transition from.
Just quickly on that, after about 20 minutes, he went to 4-2-3-1 again because he pushed.
Yeah,
Mez up. Yeah. We've seen shots on the sidelines. He's saying two in midfield.
Yeah,
and if you're going to do that, surely the play you push up is the core.
It was, but there was nobody triggering the press. So when we were in it with a three-man midfield, so even though Delph was the deeper of the three, he was just doing doggies back and forth the pitch, covering fullbacks, and the gaps in midfield. The Conor Gallagher was finding was atrocious.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, he's been really good all season, Gallagher. He's going to be a great player.
Yeah,
certainly, probably for Chelsea. But yeah, you can't be giving players like him space like that. I mean, we saw like sort of early on in the game. Gallagher got a shot away because we just left him in like at the edge of the box. It was just again, as Matt said, the press is non-existent. I just don't know what that team set out to do today, apart from possibly lose that football match like he did.
It just seems like a complete lack of intelligence from our players on their part. We saw on Monday that what can happen if they put a shift in. And I think sometimes a lot of us get sort of lost in this idea of pressing because look, every team can press, every team can run, but you can see when we don't do it how poor we are. And I thought we had a little bit more. I mean, it wasn't great, but I thought we had a little bit more of a go second half, and you could see that when we were on the front foot a bit more, we were that little bit more effective. But you go from that game on Monday where a typical Everton Goodison performance under the lights, them players, if I was them, I'd be thinking, come on, let's do the same again. I know it's not always easy to do the same again, but when you've got players like Gallagher, like Zaha, like, you know, I thought Ayew played well for them today as well. He's not a great player. He's just an average Premier League player, but we made him look good because he put a shift in. When you've got players like that who can do something on the ball and have got a bit of something about them, you can't stand off them. And I'm getting a bit fed up with this Everton team, giving other Premier League teams an hour's head start by letting them dictate. And it's all well and good having a defensive mindset or setting the stall out. I've just looked there. We've had 3 clean sheets all season. We've had 2 clean sheets in September. This is a team that's not defensively sound, conceding goals left, right, and centre. So we can't keep doing this supposed defensive counter-attacking style if we're not even going to be bothered winning the ball back or looking like we even want to win the ball back. It's just it's very frustrating. And you watch that, and we've seen that game how many times down the last 5 years. We've seen the same performance, the same game. It's so predictable from us, really is.
Same as Brentford the week before.
Yeah, you say that word. It is the same. It's the nothing first half performance, absolutely gutless. I think we had 2 shots. I remember Gray having a couple of shots in the first half. You know, and then will we even get to that substitution in the second half? You know, there's a poor managerial appointment that does poor managerial things. There's a bit of hope. We can see the goal from a set piece. You know, it's everything from Everton in the last sort of 5 years wrapped up into one. You know, I think Warren said there as well. You know, the stall for that match was set out in the first 10 minutes. They had, I think Gallagher had a couple of shots. They had the dangerous crossing from Ayew. And from then on, we just sat back and we allowed them onto us. And that is fine if that's the game that you're playing and you can spring out from that. But we haven't done it all season. They're throwing up the stats, we got 10 points from coming from behind. It's like, well, yeah, but we've been behind in, I'd say, I can't remember what they said, but it's like over half the match, more than half the matches we played, we've gone behind. So only by law of averages, we're going to have the most coming back. It's absolutely dire. I just can't see any way forward with these tactics, with this manager in charge. It's ridiculous.
That is a good point, actually. It's like we are falling behind in games that we really probably shouldn't be falling behind in. You look to the first game of the season, Southampton. The thing with that was, I think it's like we rarely come back from going a goal down over the last few seasons. We did that in the Southampton game. It was like, okay, yeah, maybe this team has suddenly got something more about it, and they can turn it around. But Dan, I'll come to you now, mate. You look at that game, and I don't think that team was. I don't know what it was set up to do. It's attack, and it wasn't set up to come back, because when we went behind, as Mike touched on, then he made that Rondon Richarlison substitution, which was mind-boggling, and we will come to that later on. But what did you make of that? What was he setting up to do there?
I mean, the first things first, it's good to see that the strategic review is going so well, and we've now decided to completely hand the keys over to a man who's bought Solomon Rondon 3 times. Let that sink in. 3 times. And his goal means nothing today. I don't care. But
do you know what? The one thing I will say about that goal is, though, that does sort of cement Palace as the sort of banter club that Everton are, because Rondon scored.
Yeah. He's Crystal Palace's Van Wolfswinkel now, isn't he?
Yes, basically.
But I think, I was in a pub on Monday watching the Arsenal game with an Arsenal fan, and we were both lack of direction, quality, and whatever you want to call it. And it felt like in that game, and much like today, our players almost decide to ignore what they've been told in the last 10 minutes. It's almost like when they are with their backs to the wall and up against it, they almost ignore the manager and they do what they want. And in the end, we've got Seamus doing something absolutely ridiculous at the end, trying to sort of hoof it out from the corner flag and stuff. But I just don't see a future with this guy. I don't see a future with a guy who's sort of trying to sort of rule with an iron fist and hang players out to dry. I mean, will Richarlison be next? Because he's made a fuss of being substituted. Will he be the next one? We've seen Andre Gomez have his usual handsome but brilliant, handsome, always useless 10-minute cameo. He was
inexplicably had his haircut.
He might as well have had the Harry Potter cloak on today. It's like, let's give up on that guy. Let's give up on him. It's pointless. We've seen everything today that encapsulates what we've been watching for years, which is players that lure us in, players we buy into because they're beautiful to look at, players that give us 15 minutes every 150 that make us feel like they might be pulling it back from the brink. We've got a manager who no one really wants, no one future. If you do, then you really need to have a think about where you're coming from. Because if you really think that this man is the future of what we're trying to achieve as a football club, then there's something massively wrong with you. Because he isn't. He's an arrogant man who has spent the last 5 years of his career hanging players out, going after chairmen, going after owners. And whenever I'm waiting to see who he tries to get sacked this week to cover his own failings. Who is he going to pass information to his mates in the press to this week to make them look like it was their fault? He's only got a few more people to sack. He's only got a few more people he can, use as a human shield to You know, to get away from the fact, worst defeat in the derby for 30 odd years, worst losing streak for 30 odd years. Solomon Rondon, for crying out loud. This guy is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. And if we allow him to single out players and basically push them out of our football club and do what he's doing to us right now, you are going to be watching Sean Longstaff and Dwight Gale in the Championship next year. You know, because he's a joke. The man is a joke. You know, he comes out and tells us we ran a lot. Of course we did. We were chasing shadows. He comes out and tells us no one is bigger than the club, apart from him, obviously, because he's bigger than everybody. And it's just unfeasible how that man's tenure can be anything other than a colossal clusterfuck.
Well, yeah, the thing now is as well from that game is you saw that the fans were making their voices heard. So I was thinking, he had fat Spanish waiter, red and white shite, and then Richarlison song in quick succession after Richarlison got subbed. Matt, I want to come to you. What did you had something to say there? What was on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, Dan's articulated pretty much everything I wanted to say, you know, incredibly well and a lot better than I could. But there's one bit I wanted to pick up on, which was the players making decisions themselves, taking things into their own hands, and it was like, you know, the cup semi-final against United, where the players just completely, whatever Martinez was saying, we're going to take it on ourselves, and it looks like they've done that over the last couple of games. The second half against Brentford, the second half against Arsenal, second half today. But you know, that substitution, Rondon for Richarlison. Do you remember when Graham Taylor brought off Gary Lineker of Alan Smith in Euro '92, and it was just, you know, this stinks of the last thing I'm ever going to do at this club. I'm really gonna, you know, people remember how much of a fuck up I've made of it.
Well,
and
I was trying to think if there's ever been a worse substitution I've seen. There's been a more surreal one, because I think Tom Davis came on for James Rodriguez last season, which was a very, very surreal Everton moment.
But as
far as bad substitutions go, can't think of one.
I mean, the thing is, once you lose the way support, then you know you're literally in the departure lounge. I think, you know, there's no coming back from that. There's absolutely no coming back from that. That's the nucleus. That's the hardcore. And you know, once they start booing the substitutions, fat Spanish waiter, red and white shite, you don't know what you're doing. You know, that's the end of it.
Yeah, I think just on the players taking sort of a bit of responsibility. One thing I was disappointed with in particular was that second goal we conceded from Tompkins, because the corner that Palace had just before that, then Mason Holgate got a flick on and put it out to play for the throw-in, but Tompkins was on his own at the back post.
Yeah.
And then he didn't learn anything from that corner to think, I tell you what, you mark him because he's on, you know.
The amount of times that Godfrey and Michael Keane get caught underneath the ball, what were they doing in training? I mean, how are they not getting key positions, front post, back post? It was just Tompkins was in 6 yards of space on the back post.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, Warren, I'll come back to you now, mate. We were sold this pragmatic manager, weren't we? Who gets a good defensive shape, keeps a solid team, knows how to defend. Was everything what we needed, to be honest, because, you know, some of the goals we conceded last season were just, you know, outrageously bad. Defense was leaking all over the shop, especially at home. So you think, yeah, all right, if you can get a defensive manager in, you get that, you build on that. Yeah. He's been anything but, though, hasn't he?
It's becoming a worry now, like I said before, about the fact that we've only kept 3 clean sheets all season. And, you know, I agree with what a lot of the lads have said about Benitez. You know, it was always going to be you know, when we lost a few games, it was always going to be a difficult one because of his past, simple as that. And there was parts early on in the season where I thought, you know, we talked about it, Les, we've done shows together where we said, you know, he's addressed certain issues, and he's the signing of Townsend and Gray, which is what we needed, direct wingers. So we addressed them. And, you know, I'm not in any way defending him, because it was always going to be a difficult appointment. And when things start going wrong like they have been the last few weeks, it's going to be difficult for everyone to lift and come back from. But these are players now, and it highlighted again for me that second goal, like you've just said. There's no one taking responsibility. There's no one going, you do this, I'll do this job. I was taught, I mean, look, I never reached any decent level of football, but when I played, I was taught, take responsibility on the pitch. When you walk on that pitch, even if you're not, your job isn't to mark someone on a corner, for instance. If you see someone free, you pick them up and you just make it as difficult. Even if they win that header against you, you make it difficult. Don't give them anything free. And to see two of them come together and that ball just go past and Tompkins has got a tap in. This is a recurring thing for Everton now since probably Moyes left, where we are not set up defensively. And for Benitez to come in and like we've been told and sold, you know, he's going to be organised. We're going to see a structure. Yes, he's a lot to blame for it, but I can't keep forgiving these players because this has happened for far too long now. I think these players are not taking responsibility enough, and they're the ones that always seem to get away with I know they get criticised, and I know we're a set of fans that do criticise our players and, you know, don't give them much time, but we're now all jumping on the manager's back. And like I said, he's not blameless. He is a fault for a lot of things, but these players, for me, have got to take more responsibility. I'm sick of this constant, just lackluster, no thought, no intelligence. You know, it doesn't. We've all talked up Ben Godfrey the last season, and I think he's a great player. No matter, I don't think he's had a great season, but I still think he's a very good young player. Where is he for that second goal? Michael Keane, experienced at the back, and Michael Keane had part of last season under Ancelotti, and even part of the season before that, but he played really, really well, got himself into the England squad. So these are players that know what they're doing, but for some reason the intelligence has gone out of them. There's no responsibility from anyone. There's no leadership from anyone for me. And I'm sorry, but Mason Holgate, for me, I don't know what's happened to him since that injury. I just don't see a centre-half there who's willing to take that aggression and get us out of defensive frailties that we're in. And I just think we're all over the shop when Yerry Mina's not there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's still cops.
And I don't think Yerry Mina's going to be there for a while yet, because he just seems to, like, you know, 1 game in, 6 games out. Michael, come back to you now. It's like, it's a bit of a chicken and egg, isn't it? It's like the old argument of, like, well, did the team G the fans up, or did the fans G the team up? With this team, it's like, who is ultimately responsible for this? Is it the players for being bad shitbags, or is it the manager for just putting a bad plan in place, or is it a combination of both? Are we just totally fucked now, or what? What do you reckon?
I think. Oh, sorry. I thought you said.
I was going to say,
go on.
Go on, Mike.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. You know, I think you've got to look over. That's 10 games now, 8 losses, 1 draw, 1 win, 4 points from 40. Now,
that's bad, isn't it?
I can't think of a time in Everton's history where a manager has done that and survived. You know, you say that the fans G up the team G up the fans. It doesn't matter at this point. It's the last 10 games, apart from 10 minutes against Arsenal and 90 minutes against a pretty dire Spurs team, it's just been awful. You know, I don't. We've all said on these programs, and people on the Blue Room have said, you know, I don't think I felt as down about Everton before. And, you know, is there going to be any change? You know, what's going to happen on Thursday? We're going to get beat. You know, that set of players will go into that match as they did against Manchester City, just waiting to get beat. And so then that'll be 4 out of 44. You know, I just don't, when it's not always the manager, as Warren says, it's, you know, it's a combination of things, but there has to come a point where the fella who puts the players on the pitch and takes responsibility for the tactics, these last 10 games, it's a quarter of a season, and we've got 4 points. I've said it before, and I'll be sat there on Thursday cheering them on, but I'm absolutely done with them. Absolutely done. The cowards managed by a clown.
That is very well put, actually. Cowards managed by a clown. That, Matt.
Yeah, pretty much that.
To add on that, it's pretty conclusive, that, isn't it? I'd not even looked at it from the fact that we got 4 points out of 40.
I mean, I think that if you're going to try and put a sensible head on it now and have a bit of a strategic overview of it, right? We haven't got a director of football, right? We haven't got a director of football, and the manager could go tonight. So you got a blank canvas. You got a blank canvas. That there's 5 or 6 managers that go. I know, Dan, but let's
If Benitez got sacked tonight, I am in no doubt that Mashiri will put himself as manager. That's the next thing that happens.
What was it? Who did that? Bloody the Palace guy, Ron.
Palace chairman, yeah, he managed Brentford, didn't he?
Yeah,
he did all right as well.
He did
all right with them. But that seems the next logical step.
Yeah.
But that's season 5 of Everton.
The shit one. I switched off on that one. I couldn't get into it.
Amazon must be fucking livid. This is the one season. This is the one season where their chance. But no, I mean, just if we got no director of football, the recruitment team is pretty much being gutted. And if he went, you can bring somebody in with a plan, somebody who's got an idea of what they want to do. There's 3 or 4 managers out there who could walk into this club, grab it by the scruff of the neck, and say, right, this is what we're doing. But the problem is in the boardroom. You need. I think. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think the only small benefit that you've got with Benitez is that if Mashiri says something and he doesn't want to do it, he's going to go, no, I'm not doing it. And this thing in the back of my mind, it just thinks that Mashiri thinks, well, this is somebody who stands up to me. So, you must have something about him. But it's so counterproductive.
Yeah,
so counterproductive.
Yeah, it's like you've got the owner who he's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's like Ken Wright, when he brought him in, he was like, I have found us the perfect billionaire. And if he's a perfect billionaire, he can build the fuck out of a stadium quite clearly because that's going really well. He cannot run a football club, so he's not found the perfect billionaire. So you've got him, an absolute crackpot.
Did you think Ken Wright was going to find the perfect one? He found the Ken Wright one. It's ridiculous that...
Ken Wright handpicked Mashiri because he knew that Mashiri would allow him to stay involved.
Yeah. Well, the 2 Americans, then, if you remember, the ones who bought Swansea, they offered more money, but they didn't want him to stay on. So, funny enough, they never bought the club.
He wanted to safeguard a seamless transition, and he's still there. And I'm not a Ken Wright hater. I'm not a Ken Wright outer. I'm just fed up. I'm really, really just fed up that he's found this guy. He's not very good. He's building a stadium, but he doesn't care about Everton. He doesn't care about Everton the way I care about Everton. And okay, maybe you're not going to find a billionaire who does, and a billionaire who's going to do all the right things at the right times. But there was no right time to appoint Rafa Benitez. There's literally no right time. And now I'll say it again. 4 points out of 10 games, quarter of a season.
Well, this is it. I mean, a lot of people will probably be looking at it saying, well, you can't blame Ken Wright for the players being out on the pitch and the manager being shy, because I've no doubt that Ken Wright didn't want Benitez. If there's one sort of saving grace there, Ken Wright would have been the one dissenting voice against Benitez. But the fact is, he's not very good either. Ken Wright's not very good. He's not a very good chairman. He never has been a very good chairman. So, you can't separate the two, and you can't say, yeah, the team is shit, and yeah, the chairman's shit. It's not like it is all one sort of cohesive mess, but you can't slag Ken Wright off, and you can't slag the team off, and you can't just think it's all shit, because it pretty much is. Dan, I reckon you got something to say on this.
I just think we've descended into being this club where no one really, the word for our club right now is ambiguity. Right? Because no one really knows what anything is. We never really knew what Brands' job was. Some people defended him because they said he couldn't do the job. His hands were tied. Some people said, well, if you knew you weren't going to be able to do your job, why are you sticking around? Right? Why are you staying there? Why are you signing a new contract in April if you know you can't do your job? We don't really know how much involvement Ken Wright has. We're being fed stories that tell us that apparently Bernard and Iwobi Mashiri deals. We don't really know what all that is. We don't really know, is Bill giving jobs to ex-players willy-nilly because of some romanticised blue-tinted vision? We don't really know where the money's coming from. We have some people saying it's Usmanov. We have some people saying there's no chance it's Usmanov. We have a 26-year-old board member who suddenly arrives out of nowhere, who we're told that is leaving the board through health and personal reasons. And it turns out it's not health and personal reasons, is it? He's gone to a party in Mayfair and stoved someone's head in. So the club is just ambiguity. It's ambiguity.
Allegedly, I'll just throw in
allegedly. Sorry, allegedly. So we have a club that revolves and pulsates and breathes ambiguity. It never really tells us what's going on. It never really tells us who is who and what they do. It never really gives any. All it does is move Unsworth around every time. So we'll give him a new thing. He'll be, chief defence of the war board later. You know what I mean? He just gets a new title every 6 months so that John Ebrell can move around a bit. And we are ambiguity personified because no fan knows what any of these people genuinely do. And we've got a guy who's just walked out the football club, we're being told, to save his dignity. And it turns out that all of a sudden, Rafa Benitez has managed to wrestle more control of our football club in 4 months than Marcel Brands could wrestle in 3.5 years. So our owner has decided out of nowhere that he's going to give more power to a man that failed in the Chinese Super League with a 30% success rate, who signed Solomon Rondon 3 times.
How many times has he signed him?
3. And our owner has decided, the Burke on the boat has decided that he is going to give the power to a man who signed Dwight Gale. And all we're going to do now is see fall guys. For the next, God knows how long, he is going to make sure he rids the club of everybody that stands up to him, everybody that questions him. The next player who has the bravery to stick their head above the parapet will be binned. And we will be staring down in the summer of no DCL, no Richarlison, no Digne, no Pickford. They will walk, they will be bought, they will leave. We are in the hands of mad, absolute lunatics.
Even Jimmy Martin's in trouble with this guy, isn't
he? They'll dig people up to sack him. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And today was just the perfect storm of everything this club has become. We've got the away fans, chanting because he's taken off one of the few players we have who runs himself into the ground week in, week out because he genuinely cares. And he takes the guy off for a tree. And it's just berserk. And we are just watching this thing spiral out of control. And as people are saying, it's like, we can try and defend all this. We can try and say, well, it will come good eventually. And we've got to keep the same manager. We can't keep sacking managers. That classic mantra. We should have it on the back of our shirts. We can't keep sacking managers in Latin, right? But there has to be some point where you realise you can sack a manager because this manager is not working and will never work, ever.
Yeah, I think the main thing is stop hiring managers that aren't right for the job.
Exactly.
To be the first port of call. I'll just go back to that Richarlison substitution then, because it was totally mind-blowing. Warren, I'll come to you on this. He seems to have locked horns with Luca Dean, a strong character, clearly. And I think he could be off in January. I think he's got to be off in January now, because if you've bombed out your left back like that, French international, top player, I know there's a lot of people saying he can't defend. He can defend. It's not his strongest suit. He's much better going forward. I think we do need a defensive left back at the minute. So I can see why he's putting Godfrey there. But you can't just bomb a player of that quality out like that. Can't do that. But he's locked horns, and Dean needs to go in January if he's not going to play him. So we get maximum amount of money back for him. If he's doing the same with Richarlison, we're a bit screwed now, because that substitution was absolutely mental.
It was baffling, wasn't it? It
He
was
came on
just
and scored,
baffling.
and he did well. But
I honestly thought when Rondon and Gordon were on the sideline waiting to come on, I honestly thought it'd be a midfielder and Townsend. Now, I like Townsend. I think he started all right. He's gone off the boil a bit, but he hasn't played well for a while. And I don't just like the fella, but he shouldn't, Gordon should get a run instead of him. So I thought that was going to be the sub. And when I saw 7 come up, I just thought, has he got a knock? Is it something we don't know about? Because that doesn't make sense. And when he was sitting in the dugout and the camera kept going on to him, he wasn't like had an ice pack on his thigh or nothing like that to signal that there was a knock. He just sat there quite glum, didn't he? And you look at how well he played on Monday, and you just think, surely, I think he had nothing coming to him, and I felt sorry for him. And the trouble is, he's good in the air, Charleston, but he's not a target man. And the way we're playing at the minute, we need that focal point of Calvert-Lewin, which we haven't got. So it was just baffling. And, that was that. When you've got the manager who, was a former Liverpool manager, and you're making substitutions like that, you have to get a result out the game. Simply put, he didn't get a result. So quite rightly, he will suffer the backlash from that, which is why the fans sang what they sang after that sub was made. I just want to quickly go back, if you don't mind, to something that Dan said before, because I'm sometimes loath to blame the likes of Unsworth and the likes of Ken Wright and all these and whatever, because I think sometimes we look for, I don't want to say scapegoats, but we look for reasons for why things go wrong. I'm not saying that any of them are blameless, not at all, but Dan hits a bit of a nail on the head before when he said there's no idea of what anyone does. And I'm sure we've all got jobs, and I know in my job there's a structure. Who's at the top, what everyone does, what everyone's role is below them, what everyone's role is below them, and it feeds down into the people, in and around whatever organisation or business it is. I was led to believe Marcel Brands was going to be this director of football who was going to find us these players, a bit like what, I don't want to use his name really, but a bit like what Steve Walsh did at Leicester. He was going to find us these cheap, young, hungry players. He signs Moise Keane, all right, that doesn't work out, but I thought that was where he was going to go. But like Dan said there, we don't even know if his hands were tied. We don't know. I came out with the statement, I think on one of the previous shows we had, of if his hands were tied, he should have walked. But we don't know. We don't know if his hands were tied. We don't know 100% if it was. We only know from a few little things here and there, from a few little articles. We don't know what Unsworth's role is at the club. I know he's the under-23s manager, but does he have a say in youth recruitment? Has his hands been tied to a point? Because let's remember, he's the one who signed Calvert-Lewin and a few others. Is he got as much influence anymore? I don't know. So I don't want to blame Unsworth and people like that, because I don't know what they do. There's no structure. There's no leadership. There's no sort of guidance from anyone. And because we as fans don't know, what we're doing is we're speculating on what might and might not have been said. And what that's creating is just a storm of uncertainty. It's a storm of not knowing what is going on at the club. And it's just we've seen big clubs fall by the wayside in the last 10, 15 years. I think we're in trouble. I really do, because I think what's going on behind the scenes is feeding down to everybody at the club. It's another topic for another day, but one of my big things is why are we the only club that's not bringing through any youth players? I know Gordon.
Just on that quickly. I was looking at Thierry Small. He's not even on the bench at Southampton.
Yeah, well, look, he might have been...
I don't know if it's because there's no career progression there. There's no chance of getting in the first team. But ironically, he probably would have got a game this year. He would have been left back. So what on where a player thinks, I'm off to Southampton to go and get a game, and he still doesn't get on the bench. What's going on?
There was a time when your Chelsea and Liverpool and these clubs were just signing these superstars, and their youth players had no chance. And I'm looking at them clubs. I'm looking at Chelsea. Gallagher's going to go back to Chelsea and be a superstar. You've got Billy Gilmore on loan at Norwich, who I really rate, and I think he's done magnificent for the Scotland team. I look at us and I go, who have we brought through that's been consistent and being good? Davies started off well. Davies hasn't featured, and it's 1 in 6 with Davies. He's not going to feature. Same with
that's right. So
yeah. Same with Gordon. Like, I thought Gordon did well when he come on today, but is he going to be that player that we turn to and go? And it's like Rodwell come on the scene. He fell by the wayside. I can't think of a player besides Rooney who's come through youth-wise and really made a difference. And like I said, that's another topic for another day. But that for me is an example of there is no idea from top to bottom of how to run a football club at the minute with Everton. And it's been going like this probably since Moyes left. And maybe Moyes having that total control was a factor in that. But at least we had structure. At least we had some sort of structure there. I don't think Everton have had a structure since, oh God, I don't know. Probably, I can't even think of a time in my lifetime. Probably when Philip Carter was the chairman and Kendall was there. Kendall was manager.
Carter was shite as well, trust me.
But at least, you know what I'm saying though? At least there was some sort of, here's the top and here's the, and I've gone off on a massive tangent because
it's fine, mate. To be honest, anything that stops us talking about the game is fine.
But I think we've got to realise that the reasons why we see results like today, and there's a bigger picture to play at Everton, and something's got to be done soon. And I don't know what, because if something isn't done soon, we're gonna go into a big spiral. I'm looking at just dead quick before I finish off. I know I've spoke loads here. After Chelsea, we've got Leicester, Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich, Villa. I've just totted up the points there. I think if we turn up, there's potential for 13 points. Do I think we're going to get 13 points out of them games, which will take us on? I think it'll take us on 31 points in the next 5 games if we get 13 points. Do I think
we're going to get 13? Who are we beating?
No, but this is the point I'm going to make. This is the point I'm going to make. You look at it on paper and you go, we should beat Norwich, Newcastle at home, Norwich away. Burnley, we think we could get 3 points out of because they're struggling. We've had 3 points off them before in the past, but I don't think we're going to get that. I don't think we're going to get that, and that's what I'm saying to you. If we can't beat them teams in these next 5 games after Chelsea, we are in big trouble.
Big trouble. Big trouble. There's the Arsenal match, yes, it all came together in the last 10 minutes. But these next matches, Leicester have just won 4-0 today. How long do we carry? Where does it end? Does it end on Thursday? Does it end next Saturday or Sunday, whenever it is? When does it end? Something has to change on the pitch, on the playing side, straight away. We're not going to get it at board level. We're not going to get it anywhere like that. But something has to change on the pitch. And it's just, he's a dead man walking. He's silver when he had those 5 games, those 3 games. There's literally no point. No point in him.
My big worry is that Managerial has given massive backing in getting rid of Brands. As Dan said, he's taking control of the club in a few months, more than Brands could in 3.5 years. That's a massive worry. So, Michael, I'll come to you on this. Benitez stays in the job. What does he need to do to get this team to win matches? Because as you said, honestly, I didn't. It's like that, that cliche, sleepwalking into relegation. I didn't realise we had 4 points out of 40 games. Whatever the stat was. I've had to drink throughout the second half of that. But 4 points out of a possible 40. So what does he need to do to turn around there?
Well, yeah. When did we get most of our points this season? At the start, how were we playing there? It was a sort of 4-4-2, wasn't it, with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin and getting crosses in, and I think he's done things before, but that was his only plan. That must have been his PowerPoint presentation of how I'm gonna turn this squad into well beaters, or 8 isn't good enough. We must remember that. And since Calvert-Lewin's gone, Richarlison got an injury. There's no other plan, and okay, Gray's playing quite well, but the person who was putting the crosses in, Townsend, has gone completely off the boil. So this master tactician, and I don't. The answer to your question is, Les, I don't really know how he does it. I don't really know, but this master tactician has got to find something with these players who now realistically only 2 players out of the first team are missing, Mina and Calvert-Lewin. So if he cannot find a way to make this team play well, turn up, not get beat 3-1 by Crystal Palace, not get the bellies tickled by Wolves and whoever else in the last 10 games there's been, if he can't get a tune out of it, he's past the sell-by date then, isn't he? If he can't take this group of players and get something out of them without when one thing goes wrong, he's not up to it. And the answer is, Les, he can't. This man can't. And, we all know what happens. He loses the next couple, Ferguson comes in, and we'll just go into another cycle. And that's what's going to happen. But if it doesn't happen soon, we are banging trouble. I don't think everyone's there yet. I don't think we're all there yet. But,
I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah, okay.
I'm there. I think we're banging trouble.
Come with me, brother. Come with me, brother. If we don't, these next 2 games, we're gonna, if we play like that, there is no way we'll pick up a point. No way. And then where? And then Boxing Day, we're just something has to change. We're not going to get big, like I said before. We're not going to get big change. There's, we can't storm Finch Farm like the Finch Farm 7 did. We can't all just. There's no revolution. We can't do anything. But we have to change something on the pitch. And the only thing we can do is get rid of this shyster.
Yeah, Matt, comes to you. It's a mid-table team playing relegation football, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not at we're in really real big trouble yet. I don't think that we are. I think we've got enough.
We've got enough trouble, maybe.
I think we're a 12th to 16th team. I don't think we're a 10th to 16th by any stretch of the imagination. I think Benitez is pinning his hopes on Calvert-Lewin, and the chances are when he comes back, there's going to be a centre half that's going to go right through him, and we're back to square one again with what we got now. So I personally think that he'll have the Chelsea game, he'll have the Leicester game, and then I think they might pull the trigger. Generally, I think they might pull the trigger, because midday against Leicester at home, nobody's going to be up for it. And if the team start like that, the paint will be coming off the place. There'll be absolute murder.
Yeah, it's got the potential to be, again, to coin a phrase, toxic.
Yeah, I mean, there is a nucleus of good players at the club, but the difficulty is that we've had somebody like Ancelotti who it was very, very pragmatic, and he had a set way of playing, and it worked away from home. It didn't work at home. And I think if we had a crowd there when he was producing those home performances last season, then I think he would have been banging trouble indoors.
Yeah, I was thinking that today. I don't think those performances happen with a crowd, but
no,
I don't think those away performances do either.
No, I think it would have balanced itself out. But when you're second on New Year's Day, and then you end up 10th, then that should have painted a picture of all wasn't rosy with this. But to answer your question, how we get out of it, I think that we need a manager who's going to come in and just have the plan. There's just no plan. As the guys have said, once we get past plan A, there's no plan B, C, D, or E, and you need somebody who's going to be able to tell the players, right, if this don't work, we'll do this, and we'll do this, and we'll do this, and it's adaptable in games. You see it with half a dozen managers in this league, and sadly, they're the half a dozen who are light years ahead of where we should be, or where we are, and that's where we want to be.
Just out of interest, sorry to interrupt, because
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I think we've all sort of said about how we're not happy with the manager and how,
Yeah,
you know, I was sort of, I got to a point after the early start,
Yeah.
the good start, where I was willing to give him a time. And like Dan said,
Yeah,
I do subscribe
absolutely.
to that thing of not keep
Yeah.
sacking managers. But
Yeah.
let's hypothetically say now
Yeah.
he loses the next 2 games and just becomes that
Yeah.
toxic that he's gone.
Yeah.
Who would be like, because I look at the fella in the opposite dugout today, and I think he's
Yeah.
just been a breath of fresh air to Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
I see
I think
young managers coming through
Yeah.
who I think we should maybe take a risk on if we get rid of Benitez. I'm just interested to know who you should all go
do you know
for
what?
if it was.
That's a great question, because I've got two at the opposite ends of the scale. You can look at somebody like Lucien Favre, who, wherever he's gone, he's invested heavily in youth development, and he's got 2 or 3 ways of playing. He's a very intelligent manager, and he will build for the future. He'll put steps in place where you'll have, right, in year 1 you were going to do this, year 2, year 3, and everything's laid out in front of you. He did it in Germany. He did it in France. So that if you're going to look at longevity in sort of setting your club up, then that, I think he'd be perfect. But then you've got Jesse Marsch, who's just left at Leipzig, and he works in the perfect model of where our club should be, where you've got a sporting director, and everything is a chain of command. Everything filters downwards, and there's a specific way of playing which is linked and aligned with 2 or 3 other clubs. So they've got the Red Bull model works, where they just move players around the clubs, they move managers around the clubs, and you've got an identity, you've got a plan, you've got a set way of playing. You'll look for specific players and specific profiles. So you've got somebody at one end of the age spectrum, you've got somebody on the other age spectrum, and they're both available. None of them are attached to clubs. They could walk in on Monday morning.
See, the reason, sorry, Les, I'll stop talking and say, the reason why I asked that, I wasn't being that person who does, well, if we sack Rafa, who are we going to get? I wasn't being, I'm open to all suggestions, and I'll be honest, I don't know too much about the 2 managers you've just mentioned, Matt.
Yeah.
However, for me, it's got to that point now where I'd be willing to sort of take a risk on someone like that, something fresh, something new, something to breathe life into us again. And as I say, admittedly, I don't know too much about them managers, but I think from what you said and how you describe it, that'd be something where I could look at and go, do you know what, throw it to someone like that. If they do pull a trigger on Benitez, I don't think they're going to do that, though. He's given his back, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's position at the minute terrible, because I've absolutely no doubt that we're going to get smacked at Chelsea. Leicester's not going to be an easy game, although they're not that good this season. We're horrendous. Burnley away, tough. Newcastle at home. Newcastle make arseholes out of us every season. Steve Bruce beat Carlo Ancelotti twice in one season, for God's sake. So if anyone's expecting anything of the Newcastle game, just think back to that. His position doesn't look good, but as you say, I can't see him sacking the manager. And it really shouldn't be coming to that at this point in the season. What do you reckon? Where are you on this?
I mean, I think we're all aware that he's going nowhere. I think you don't allow a man to do what he's done in the last 8 weeks. Danny Donachie's come out today, this week, on his Twitter feed with a little quote about, sort of power hungry, blah, blah, blah. blah.
He's done some top snarking, to be honest.
Yeah, some proper sly digs, and, so I don't think we can. I think we can all be safe in the knowledge that it doesn't matter if we get humped 6-0 on Thursday. He ain't going anywhere, and he's managed to get into our club. He begged for the job because it was near his house, and he knew he couldn't lose. This is a man who knew he couldn't lose.
He knows the city.
He knew he couldn't lose here, because right. He goes on, he gets his mates in the press to say there was this problem and there were these people that wouldn't let me do this. And he does the Mike Ashley thing, right? And he turns it against them. If he succeeds, he's a genius, and his arrogance and his ego just gets buttered up like a Christmas turkey, right? If he gets binned off, he gets weighed out, and all he's got to do is get an Uber home, and he's like, happy days, right? The man can't lose. He will not get binned, even if we lose all the way through to the new year. Even if we get pumped all the way to the new year, that guy's going nowhere because Mashiri won't want his damaged, ridiculous. So he will hold on for dear life while this master, whether it's a steward, a ball boy, a toffee girl, whoever falls under his axe in the next few weeks to take the fall for his. We will not see that man rid of this club anytime soon. And the idea of us getting some, semblance of competency by saying, do you know what? There are these, Brighton have just bought a Belgian feeder club, right? They've got a great director of football, a really progressive modern manager, and they've just bought a Belgian feeder club. That's the way you should be doing stuff, right? That's the way we're all looking at stuff, like the Red Bull Salzburg, Red Bull Leipzig, like Matt was saying. That's the way you do things. You do things by creating feeder clubs, creating process, creating a cohesive, lineal view of where your football club is going. So you buy feeder clubs all over Europe, you create a formula, you get players 14, 16, 21 playing the same, you recruit the same type of player, identify coaches, and that's how you build. We are nowhere near that. We are so far from that level of competency. It is scary. It is scary how far away we are from basic football club competency. We are a child playing in a gasworks with a box of matches. That's what we are.
Yeah, I think we did try that model when we bought Home Farm in the 90s and almost destroyed that club, to be honest. We took the kit off them and gave them our home kit and we nearly bought them up. But we did get Richard Dunn out of it. So, Mike, sorry, just had to say, I'll wind this up soon, but Mike, you had something to say there, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say, great point by Dan, but, I don't even want all those little, nuances and new ways of thinking. I just want people to turn up against Crystal Palace away.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I want 11 players to be put on a pitch, to have a plan, to have a chance of competing in a football match. And for the last 10 games, and probably before it, papering over the cracks a bit, we haven't had that. And we're not going to have it anytime soon. So strap yourselves in. Early night, we've all been there before, 94, 98. At least it was interesting. At least the match mattered when you went and you really wanted to get behind them. They were more likable then, but come on. And, if it does go bad, Championship would be dead fun. I reckon it'd be dead fun. But, let's see how it goes. But yeah, let's just have 11 men with a plan, and that'll do me for now. Then we can buy feeder clubs. Let's just have a fucking go at a game. It's just so depressing. So depressing.
Well, that's it. Crystal Palace are the team that were below us going into the game, and we made them look that good. And they're not. They're all right. They're not a bad side. Vieira's done well. He's probably surprised people this season. But he's done well there. You've got some great attacking players. They're a functional, decent Premier League side, and we've just been humped 3-1. Matt, I'll hand over to you for the final word on this.
Yeah, some breaking news. So Mike Parry, as a shareholder, is lobbying for support to petition the board to get Benitez removed and Wayne Rooney installed as manager with Duncan Ferguson as his assistant.
Brookside? It's Brookside?
Honestly, I'm just reading it now. He's put the tweet out.
Bobby Grant as manager.
Berserk.
He was Mike Bassett, so it might work out in the end.
Put Rafa under the patio.
That's it. So I'll read this to you. So
let's Jordash the fuck out of Rafa.
Yeah. So the tweet says, to all Everton fans, I am one of the few independent shareholders of our mighty club. I hate where we are. If I make a representation to the board that we should exit Rafael Benitez and capitals, appoint Wayne Rooney, as our new manager, with Dunk already in place, would you support me?
I think we should just end the show there, Les, with
Yeah,
that
finish
tweet
it.
by Mike Parry.
think
That
so.
sums up Everton right there, doesn't
Yeah.
it? So let's just end the show there.
And,
Go and have a
then
nice
Everton,
week, everyone. Yeah.
and then Everton blew up, and then everyone was happy.
I reckon we just put Benitez and Mike Parry in a shipping container and a fight to the death. Whoever comes out gets their own way. Fuck it. That's where we are. Cheers for that, lads. It was a discussion, but not about the match. But then no one wants to talk about the match. Bollocks to that. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to Warren. Thanks to Mike. It's another shit weekend for the Toffees. At least it happened on 4:30 on a Sunday night and on 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon. There is that. We enjoyed the weekend before the game. Chelsea up next. That should be a piece of piss. Someone else will probably have post-match for that one because I certainly won't be doing it. But yeah, we'll catch up then. It can't get any worse. It definitely will.